vocal. We are currently getting ourselves connected to the YouTube stream. We are making sure that everything is in order. Live stream is not active yet. Interesting. Let's refresh. Live stream is active. That's good news. All right. We are currently getting the details locked in. Let's make this change here. All right, we have the description, we have the encryption. We are digitizing, we are saving changes. Let's get that picture there. Good, we are getting all organized. Interesting, we are having some trouble over here. That's not a good thing. Okay, we're good. We're good? Okay, last thing I gotta do. YouTube chat. No. Yes, no, can you hear me? I can't see you yet. Working on it, mute that. I see Russ Derricott, I see a barrel boy. Kill us under, hi. Luke, I've got you in the Get Vocal chat, and now live. Testing audio, testing it out. Can I hear me? I can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello. Barrel Boy can hear me. We are live. Fantastic. All right. Excellent. We are live. Hey there, Foundation staff. This is Level 2 researcher Theron Sherman, but you can call me Sherm. Welcome to another Anomalous Broadcast from Site-42. For anybody unfamiliar with our show, the rundown goes like this. Number 1, I read you an SCP document or tale. B, I open up the floor to the community to discuss what we've just read. We're often visited by SCP authors, staff, and fans, and if we're real lucky, the author of the article themselves shows up to share some insight. Remember that if you want to join the conversation yourself, you can join the camera. We have camera windows open on the Get Vocal app. So you can get on Get Vocal, get on camera, and you can read along and discuss with me. And then we're also monitoring the Get Vocal and YouTube text chats. Also remember that if you enjoy the show, like and comment and stuff like that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you really want to help us out, become a patron at patreon.com/site42. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, tonight's tale is titled Ignorance is Bliss, written by me. We have been going through the Shattered Thoughts canon, or quasi-canon. It's not a canon yet. But the Shattered Thoughts series, I guess we'll call it. And so tonight is the article, the tale I wrote, Ignorance is Bliss. And so we will go through this. And yes, Insanity Major, I see you. I am sorry you're sick, but we will get to Vend a Friend. We are 2 tales and however many interviews away we have from that. And so without any further ado, let us get to tonight's article. So, Ignorance is Bliss. Ready and rolling. I woke up to the taste of ink. There was a numb pain in my left arm. I looked through my swimming vision to see my left sleeve rolled up and a small amount of blood on the outside of my forearm. While my head throbbed, the spinning of the room started to slow down. I checked my wound. It was a bleeding gouge mark of some kind, and 10 similar gouges were healed alongside it. I was on the floor of a bedroom, but the house looked to be condemned. Windows broken, furniture tossed. The ceiling had a hole knocked through it. Using the bed for leverage, I got to my feet and noticed that I was wearing a mobile task force uniform. Agents aren't typically issued TAC gear unless... Shit. I found a cracked mirror on the floor and propped it up against the wall. No head injuries. Black substance on the tongue and teeth. I've been amnesticized. Shit. Okay. Remember what you can. My name is Alan Williams. I'm 37 years old, ginger, and handsome. I've worked for the Foundation for 8 years. I'm an agent specializing in Euclid non-sentient object anomalies. The year, as I know it, is 2078. I wonder how hard I got inked this time. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the reflection of somebody lying on the ground on the other side of the bed. I whipped around to help, but nobody was there. Turning back to the mirror, the body was still reflected. I picked up the mirror and carried it over to the non-person. The reflection was fuzzy, as if they were being shown in a low-resolution video. She's also wearing tack gear, and she was frozen reaching for her belt pouch. Front left. I checked my front left belt pouch. Empty. Leaping is the only word that describes how I maneuvered over the bed, and underneath the bed was, as expected, a small white canister. The spray lid had been torn off, the inside coated with a thin layer of the same inky substance that coated my mouth. I did this to myself, and saved myself from whatever happened to my former compatriot. What the hell is going on? One soldier down, one soldier dumb. I really hope that someone in command knew what the hell was going on. I pulled back my shirt sleeve and activated my Halo bracelet. The light interface blazed to life and I selected the comm link. Hopefully someone was listening on the Foundation emergency frequency. This is I guess, Sergeant Williams, if you ask my tack gear. Serial number Alpha Whiskey 121586 Golf. Does anybody have ears on this channel? We copy, Sergeant. What's your status? As far as I can tell, I self-amnesticized. There's another member of what I'm guessing was my team here, sort of. Sergeant Williams, this is extremely important. Do not follow that train of thought any further. Due to the current situation, the Foundation is operating under an ignorance is bliss protocol. Any additional knowledge of the situation is a danger to your well-being. Are you injured? No, I'm fine. What year do you think it is? 2078. And is it accurate to say that you remember nothing past your time as a Foundation agent? Yes. All right. We've got your position from your Halo. There is a Foundation motorcade passing through your area in approximately 4 hours. To meet them, you need to head 5 miles north to the interstate. I've marked the rendezvous point on your map. I'll radio ahead and let them know to be ready for you. I rotated my Halo interface and pulled up the area map. I was in a housing district, and there'd be what looked like some commercial space in between me and my target marker. What can I know on my way there? Any information is dangerous, so much so that we've locked the public internet and Foundation intranet functions of your Halo. Any civilian, anomaly, newspaper, television, anything should be avoided by any means necessary. Get to the motorcade as unmolested as possible. Son of a bitch. That's just wacky fun, isn't it? Yep. Good luck, Agent. Sergeant. Wait, no. Say that better. Good luck, Agent. Sergeant. Do you remember how to be a sergeant? Shit. Before leaving, I took stock of the room. Nothing that can be considered a supply to be found. My gear had a Foundation-issue Glock 142 in its holster, 2 stun grenades, and a set of motion heat sensor goggles. Other utilities like a flashlight and multi-tool were in various pouches. There was also a handgun I didn't recognize. It looked like Foundation reverse-engineered extraterrestrial tech. All sorts of curves and bronze inlays. You never use REIT weapons unless you know what they are. Alien shit can tickle someone to death or stun them with the painful burning of 1,000 suns for a fraction of a second. I considered examining my fallen squad mate one more time, but the dispatcher said not to. And fuck me if I've decided not to trust the company line on shit I need to know or not to know. I pushed through the dilapidated... See, it's the amnestics. It's just messing with my brain. I pushed through the dilapidated living room and out onto the street. The afternoon daylight was blinding for a moment. After shading my eyes, I surveyed the area. It wasn't just this house. The whole block was a war zone. I wish I had asked what level of worldwide apocalypse I was walking into, but I'm sure dispatch wouldn't have told me either way. I started making my way north, staying close to the houses for cover. All of the houses in the neighborhood had the same bombed-out look, kind of a suburbs of World War IV chic. I could see into most of them through the plentiful holes. Besides a random flock of pigeons or squirrels, most of them were deserted. The street ended in a cul-de-sac, and beyond that last house, I could see a tree line. As I approached, I could see the tall, laser grid fence meant to keep the suburb separated from the plaza on the other side. Well, the good news was that the apocalypse had knocked out the power supply. Checking my map and assuming that this fence wraps around the suburb, I'd have to go a mile south to get around and come back up. I could make it, but it's pretty out of the way, and I'd rather save the time if I can. Maybe I get lucky, and this was an upper-class neighborhood with a hard light fence. I picked up a nearby branch and tossed it at the grid. I swear I could hear the sizzle of the burning wood and leaves say, "Your bad luck is sure coming to a middle." I headed over to one of the pylons to see if I could remove a panel and shut it down somehow. Before I could touch anything, the whole fence went out. Holy shit. Dive or think. I chose dive. I let full force across the fence line before it had the chance to reactivate. Successfully, I might add. Well, unless you count leaping before looking, causing me to tumble down a hereto unnoticed ditch full of wonderfully aromatic standing water as a point against me. My tack gear protected me from the bulk of the bumps, thankfully. The fence had turned back on, so at least I felt good about that decision. I found a nice hefty rock and tossed it up at the fence to add injury to its insult. The rock ricocheted off the fence in a decidedly not being burned into nothingness fashion. That's not how fences work. You can't be standard laser 1 second and flip a switch to hard light. The pylon technology is different. Or at least it was when I can remember, which is I don't know how long ago. Just to be safe, I pulled out my halo and scanned the area for Hume fluctuations. The cont counter gave me a perfectly normal reading of the reality of the area. I guess time and technology just keep marching on. I switched to the suit menu and activated the auto dry. My suit buzzed as its interior created a warm airflow that quickly dried out my gear, and also felt nice if I'm being honest. I dusted off the dirt that used to be mud and started walking. As I rounded to the front, I saw that this plaza is anchored with a large grocery store. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but I did know that I was suddenly very hungry now that I've remembered that food is a thing that exists. Weighing the distance I have to travel versus the time, I should be able to get in and out and make it to the pickup. Just had to stay on the lookout. I hadn't seen any people yet, but supermarkets are the kind of place people head to in an apocalypse, and dispatch seemed very serious about that do not engage order. I prepared to take out my flashlight, but the interior of the store was lit by daylight streaming through multiple holes in the ceiling. What struck me first was how much food was still on the shelves. There wasn't a run on the store? No raiders after the fact? I didn't remember how long it had been since the event, so I made a beeline to the canned food aisle. As I passed by a frozen food case, I spotted someone out of the corner of my eye. I wheeled around and pulled my pistol on the empty air. Scanning around, I found them again. It was a reflection in the cold case door. A man, civilian, blurry like my squad mate back at the house, face contorted in horror, staring back at me, blended with my own reflection. Holstering my gun, I opened the cold case door and slowly tracked the reflection across the store. There were more civilians here, all of them invisible except for their blurred reflections. What sort of anomalous shit was this? I jumped as a woman's voice shouted from behind me. "Oh God, are you a soldier? Thank God you're here." I looked where the voice had come from. Stumbling towards me from a few aisles down was a woman, a little shorter than me. Blonde hair, stringy, wearing ratty civilian clothes. "Please, I need your help." I had to make a decision fast. My orders were not to engage anyone. What were my options? "Please." I could run. I could shoot her. She was sobbing. She was sobbing, hysterical. I took a deep breath and stood my ground as she rammed into me and hugged me. It was honestly nice to see someone alive after all these mirror ghost things, and did she just sweep the leg? With a loud thwack, I was flat on my back. Thank God for helmets or I'd be concussed as well. She went straight for my Glock, but I got a hand on her left wrist. Her right hand boxed my elbow and she followed through with her right elbow straight into my nose. My vision exploded and I choked as I snorted blood. She was good, and that wasn't good news for me. I could feel her pull my Glock out of its holster. I took a risk on a blind flop with hope that my weight advantage might be able to knock her off balance. I managed to slam both of us into the potato chip display, but I didn't have any bullets in me yet, so I considered the risk a success. We wrestled for the gun, trading body blows and arm locks. I had the advantages of size and body armor, but she could take me apart 7 ways from Sunday with her technical skill, and I didn't have body armor on my face, which she kept hitting. She knocked me down to my knees and pointed my gun at my head. Gasping for air, head swimming, bleeding out of my nose, lip, and cheek, I didn't see a way out of this. Then I didn't see something else. A hole appeared in the potato chip rack behind her, almost as if the shelves had just melted out of existence. Something, or nothing, something I couldn't see, grabbed my assailant by her wrist. She dropped the gun to the ground as she was lifted into the air by the unseen force. Her arms and legs splayed wide and her back arched as if she was being pulled apart. She started hyperventilating as her face turned beet red. She managed to choke out 2 words. Kill me. As I stared slack-jawed at whatever was happening, her fingers and shoes started to dematerialize. It looked like she was pixelating and dissolving. This is what happened to my squad mate, to all these civilians. And it looked like it fucking sucked. I reached to grab my gun off the ground, but stopped. The REIT. I had no idea what it did, but maybe I have it because it has some use in this situation. I pulled it out of its holster, aimed, and pulled the trigger. The gun short-circuited in my hand. No kickback, no projectile or energy beam. Nothing happened when I pulled the trigger. But she fell down anyways. I slid down next to her and saw her extremities snap back into existence. Her breathing slowed and she passed out. I holstered my intact Glock and my burnt-out REIT, picked her up over my shoulder, and didn't stop running until I made it to the rendezvous point. Whew! Chapter 1. Drink. Luke, don't get molested on the way to the motorcade. It's the best advice. It's the wisest advice. Should have followed the advice, Alan. What? Oh, yeah. All right. Chapter 2. Continuing on. I woke up to the taste of ink. While my head throbbed, the spinning of the room started to slow down. I was on a bed. Well, a cot. In the cramped room that had that familiar rumbling shake of an RV. Using the bed for leverage, I got to my feet and noticed that I was wearing Foundation-issue sweats. Agents aren't typically issued military-style clothes unless... Shit. I staggered over to the mirror hanging on the wall. Broken nose with matching raccoon eyes, split lip, stitches in the cheek, black substance on the tongue and teeth. There were stitches on the outside of my left forearm, a small gouge mark and 11 similar ones alongside it. I got my ass kicked, and I've been amnesticized. Shit, okay, remember what you can. My name is Alan Williams. I'm 37 years old, ginger, and handsome. Well, underneath these bruises anyways. I worked for the Foundation for 8 years. I'm an agent specializing in Euclid, non-sentient object anomalies. The year as I know it is 2078. I wonder how hard I got inked this time. There was a call box next to the door to the room, and I jammed the button a little too hard for the bruises on my fingers that I didn't know were there. Am I being contained? The door opened. No, sir. Glad to see you awake, says the smiling man in Foundation BDUs. Good. That bedroom-bathroom combo was a little cramped. Good to see the amnestics didn't cost you your sense of humor. Have we met? No, I'm Michael. We didn't meet until after. I saved your life once, you saved mine 3 or 4 times, depending on who's counting. After what? We don't talk about that. Ignorance is bliss protocol is in effect. Don't worry, I've forgotten you once as well. Ah, were we friends? Not my first 2 times, I'm told. But 3rd time's a charm, eh? Yeah, who knows? Michael beamed. Get cleaned up and head down the hall. They'll give you your wake-up briefing. I grabbed my towel and headed to the back of the hall where the shower was. Occupied. While I waited, I went over what memories I could recollect. The most vibrant thing I remembered is saying goodbye to my wife on my way to work. I could remember she was drinking coffee. I could remember she was reading the paper. But I couldn't remember what she looked like. I looked down at my left hand. No ring. Something could have happened in my missing time. Maybe she died. Maybe I left. Hell, I don't even remember if she's in the job or if she was a civ. Those amnestics were hell. They like to tell you that they targeted specific memories or certain time frames, but it's times like these that I knew they were full of shit. My attempts at memory were interrupted by the door to the shower opening. A woman, brunette, a little shorter than me, in a towel stepped out. She stopped in shock when she saw my face. Wow, sorry for what happened to the other guy. Yeah, he never stood a chance. Not that I can remember. Oh, me too. She bared her teeth to me, covered in the same black ink as mine. Party on. Who are you now? Brianna Taxon, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army Special Forces. You? Alan Williams, Foundation Agent. Ah, so you have more of a clue than me. What's next? I don't have a damn clue. I'm just supposed to shower and get down to the briefing. Well, see you there, Al. Alan. Bree? I was going to say Bree's fine, but if you're being all stuffy, then Brianna, it is. She turned to walk away. The hallway shook from what must have been one hell of a bump in the road. As I smacked against the wall, Taxon braced herself with both hands, and as for the towel, I successfully grasped for it as I ardently attempted not to perv out on this woman I just met. I noticed the bruises on her abdomen. Looks like I'm not the only one who got in a fight, I said, averting my eyes. Yeah, she never stood a chance. Not that I can remember. She extended her hand, which I filled with her missing towel. See you at the briefing? Yeah. My shower was, honestly, just me thanking God repeatedly for the motorcade's hot water heater. I've changed my mind. I don't care what the technophobes say about humanity's need for the will to survive. The ability to use a miniature cold fusion reactor to have a portable hot shower at will was more than enough for me to justify mankind's march into the future. I finished up, threw on my BDUs, and made my way to the briefing room. The cadet at the door waved me in, not looking up from his halo. The room was cramped, but the familiar black walls with orange lights gritting them told me that this was about to get much bigger. Brianna was standing at attention in the center of the room, and I stood a pace back so I wouldn't hit her elbows and the wall. The cadet in the back closed the door behind me, and I could see the gridded walls unfold away from us as a large holoscreen appeared in front of us. A scientist's face filled the screen, his face awkwardly close to the camera. Taxon, Williams, welcome to today's briefing. I'm Dr. Stewart. As you probably don't remember, the specific cocktail of compound Y909... What? The specific cocktail of compound Y909 we give to agents working the field is... I had to say something. Doc, could you move a foot or so back? I'm getting distracted counting your nose hairs. Brianna snickered, and the doc gave a bit of a chuckle as well. Sure, man. Glad to see you made it back in one piece again, and that we can't ink your... And that we can't ink out your sass threshold no matter how many times we try. I chuckled and nodded politely. I didn't remember the doc, and he probably knew that as well. No need to remind him. As he moved away from the camera, I could see expensive-looking bookshelves behind him. Apparently, he was not bumming around the country in a motorcade. Anyways, long story short, the specific time of amnestic we give you doesn't affect motor neurons. All of your advanced physical training that we worked into your muscle memory before is still there. You just don't remember what it is, so you don't know how to access it. Today, we're going to crash course you back up to your previous rank. Tomorrow morning, we're going to give you your assigned intel in accordance with the Ignorance is Bliss protocol, and we'll have you ready to launch for your next mission after that. Please link your halos now. Brianna and I both activated our halos and linked them to the room. The room lit up into an endless sea of white, and two large gun racks with benches appeared on either side of us. Downrange, we could see a target apparatus swinging around. Please start by assembling, loading, firing at the target successfully, cleaning, and disassembling each weapon on the rack. Your halo has been linked to the Foundation Weapons Archive if you have any questions. Proceed. We got down to the long process of cycling through every weapon we had. I had no issue with the standard pistols and a couple of the rifles, but as the guns got more esoteric, I found myself checking the archive more and more to get an idea of where to start. Brianna made it farther than I did, even into the first few REIT weapons. Even into the first few REIT weapons before breaking out the FWA as well. Hey, Al, I grumbled. Yeah? Why do you Foundation guys do this? She asked, pointing at her Halo screen. The archive page she was looking at was about 90% black boxed. The only information available is basically point, shoot, one-time use, she muttered. They even redacted the effective against section, so we don't even know why this gun is worth having. I looked down at the weapon she held in her hand. It was one of the REITs, a curvy handgun inlaid with bronze. My vision began to blur, and a screaming migraine kicked me in the teeth and took me to my knees. As I squinted my eyes shut, Visions of that gun in my hand danced across the insides of my eyelids. I saw potato chip bags on the ground, and I heard someone screaming. I looked in that direction and saw a woman hovering in the air. I could see she was in pain by the way her body was spasming, but her features were blurry like a bad photo. I took aim and fired the reet and immediately vomited onto the floor of the sim room. The migraine started to subside, and Bree was there with one hand on my shoulder and the other up to her mouth. She was yelling into her halo to get some help as I was propped up against the bench. As the cadet stormed into the door and the simulation powered down, I waved my hand at them. Nah, don't worry. It's just an intrusive thought. It's already gone. That's an intrusive thought? Bree asked, concerned. Like when a memory tries to break through the amnestics? Yeah, usually triggered by something or other. What, this hasn't happened to you? Nope, but I'm that little bitch, though. She smirked as she said it, and I laughed, which hurt my head. Bree helped me up to sit on the bench, and the cadet released us to lunch while we were stalled out anyways. What counted for a kitchen on this heap was up in the front. It was unnerving that I didn't see any other soldiers or agents present. I wondered just how fucked we in the world were. We drank down the protein shakes scavenged from nutrition stores and filled up the rest of the way with gourmet canned meat and beans, then made our way back to the sim room. The second shift started with strategy in the field. Bree was already trained in this sort of exercise, so this section was a lot of me playing catch-up. It was my turn to be head of the class when we got to the Foundation standard protocols regarding anomalies and containment. We ended the day with physical fitness. After several mile runs, wall climbing, and long jumps, we were supposed to wrap up with sparring. Of course they put this at the end of the day, I opined. You ready? Bree replied, all business. Oh boy, I thought. Here goes. Bree and I took our stances. I circled cautiously, and Bree was having none of it. She moved in fast with a right hook and had a straight kick for my leg going seemingly before I blocked the initial blow. I backpedaled and she responded by throwing another kick toward my midsection that I managed to fall away from. She was intent to keep the pressure on me, that's for sure. She jabbed forward and I managed to get a hold of her wrist. I pivoted my weight and threw her past me. The old Irish whip never failed. While she regained her balance, I lunged at her. She flipped around like lightning and ended my tackle with a knee to my abdomen, knocking the wind out of me. She got her leg behind mine and thwack. What is thwack? That's not a sound. Thwack. Thwack. I will just say thwack. Thwack. I was lying on my back on the ground. Bree held her fist at the ready in case I got back up. She whispered, "Finish him." Are you serious? You fucking nerd. She offered me her hand and helped me up. As I stood, she noticed the line of cuts on my forearm. What is that? A kill count? Nah, a forgetting count. If I can manage it before blanking out, I leave a mark for each time I've been amnesticized. Ah, she nodded. I can see why that would be useful in your line of work. Before the fall, I only had 2. Waking up and seeing so many extra ones that I don't remember is a trip every time. So I'm glad I keep these mementos to know where I've been. Bree put her hand on my shoulder and I breathed a sigh of relief and put my hand on her head. Hand on her head? Put my hand on her hand. Comfort was in short supply these days. The sim room powered down as the cadet entered and told us to clean up and head to our bunks for the night. After my shower, I laid in my bunk. My head was swimming with everything I'd taken in today. Going from agent to sergeant in one day is rough to be sure. But I was also thinking about Bree. She was smart, funny. I sat up on the edge of my bed debating whether or not to go visit her and decided that yes, I would because curfews are for assholes anyways. I opened my door and almost collided with Bree. "Oh, hi," I mustered. "Hi. Can I, help you?" She took a deep breath. "Well, it's the end of the world and I don't know many people are alive, and I don't know how many people are alive out there, and curfews are for assholes. Can I come in?" I smiled, stepped aside, and she walked in. I closed the door. We laid there all night, her in my arms, my face in her hair. She smelled like cheap soap and something I couldn't place. It was nice. In the morning, she kissed me on the cheek as she went back to her bunk. I suited up in my tack gear and headed to the sim room for the mission briefing. Bree was already there. She smiled at me as I stepped in beside and... Yes, she smiled at me as I stepped in beside and slightly back from her. The room didn't expand today, but the holoscreen appeared in front of us and Doc Stewart appeared on it, facing down and frantically scribbling on some papers while talking on his halo. "What do you mean Iota 77 is MIA? That means... He looked up in surprise. Oh, you're here. Finally. We've had some difficulties with the, the mimetic hazard. Yeah, okay, so here's what you need to know to succeed in your mission. 2 years ago, the mimetic hazard traveled through social media and annihilated most of the human race within hours. If you are affected, you have precious little time to self-anesthetize before succumbing. If your squad mate is in the midst of succumbing, you can utilize your one-use, high-density particle firearm to give your partner slightly more time to self-anesthetize. Wait, Doc, I piped up. Why would high-density particles have any effect on a person suffering from a mimetic hazard? They are... Hey, it's part of the protocol. You don't need to know that. Continuing on, the motorcade is approaching your mission site. Your job is to breach the facility, find the terminal marked on your halo, and use it to manually upload the inoculation meme into the satellites. Once they broadcast worldwide, we can start the rebuilding process and SCP 2000, and all that without having to worry about infection spreading again. Why can't you do this remotely? Bree asked. Dr. Stewart took a sharp breath and exhaled. The facility you're headed to is a highly secured government facility, and their network intrusion protection is top-notch. If we had our full resources, we'd easily be able to break in, but it's useless with our current capabilities. What kind of resistance will we be facing? Bree asked before I could. Damn, she was on the ball. There's an automaton-based security system. We've located the proper security credentials onto your halos. Wave yourself in as an employee and you'll be fine. Anything else you can tell? No. You have everything you need to know to succeed in your mission. Humanity as a whole is relying on you right now, so no matter what, you have to upload that meme. Got it? Yes, sir, we both replied. Good. Dismissed. Dr. Stewart spat at us and thrust his hand into his coat pocket. He pulled out a familiar white canister and brought it to his mouth as the feed cut out. Damn, ignorance protocol is serious business, I muttered out loud. About how much of the intel he told you do you think is accurate? Probably the stuff pertinent to the mission, like the security measures in the job, but everything about the mimetic hazard is crap. If knowing things is that dangerous, they aren't going to tell us anything factual about it. Ready to roll? She smirked and extended her arm. Let's do it, I said, clasping her wrist in mine. Woo! Leonardo Antonio in the chat asked, I'm surprised the stream only has 3 viewers. It has 4 now. No, it has 3 now. Yep. The YouTube algorithm does not like Site-42 channel because we were on hiatus for a long time. And so it does not tell people when we are streaming. And so I put it out on Twitter, and I put it out on Instagram, and I put it out on the Discord server. But until the algorithm starts liking us and telling people we're streaming, we're not going to have many viewers. But hey, we have 5 now. Don't forget to like the video, guys. Luke says it's a slow night everywhere. I agree. All of our friends are asleep and dead. Oh, no. Okay, on to the mission. We were unceremoniously dropped off by the side of the road, and the motorcade rolled away. Despite training us on every simulated weapon known to man, we only had our sidearms and our REITs for this mission. I only hope the automated security system was as easy to shut down as they said. Across the overgrown grass of the campus landscape and past the fountain was our target, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The sun was shining, and there was a cool breeze as we walked across the field. As we walked around the fountain, I could make out the front wall of the facility was collapsing. I cursed and took off running towards the door. Bree kept stride beside me despite our height difference. I didn't hear any explosion, but if there's activity in the facility, then this mission has already started in the shitter. As we crossed the front parking lot, it became apparent that the collapse wasn't slowing down. The wall in front of us was cascading, I guess is the best word. Rocks fell slower than gravity, and there seemed to be a never-ending supply of debris cycling repeatedly. I pulled up my sleeve and activated my halo. Dispatch, this is Sergeant Williams. Are you there? We hear you, Sergeant. What is your status? I'm sending you a video. We've encountered an apparent spatial anomaly at the front door of our mission site. Please advise on how to proceed. Cough, cough, cough. Please advise on how to proceed. After a moment and some muffled whispers, dispatch came back. Find an alternative entry to the facility and continue the mission. This isn't a coincidence, is it? This is involved with whatever the hell we're dealing with? Is there more of this inside? There shouldn't be. Get into the facility and complete your mission, Sergeant. They hung up. Fuck. Okay, we need another way in. It's the apocalypse, Bree said. There must be a hole in the wall somewhere. I chuckled. Really? Hey, humor is my coping mechanism. And as far as I remember, I've only been in the end of the world for 36 hours. That was an interesting way to think about it. I guess working for that foundation for years conditioned me to think that the world could end any day. So I got used to the idea as if it's always been happening. We walked around the north side of the building and easily found a knocked out wall to let ourselves in. We made our way through the conference room and into the hallway slowly, and determining the coast to be clear, we made our way back to the front lobby area. It wasn't as grand as I expected. You could almost mistake it for any business if it weren't for the large model of the space shuttle hanging from the ceiling above it. We found the entry terminal and keyed our halos for safe access. Bree lingered at the terminal for a second. What do you see? I'm just checking what level security access we have, making sure we're not going to trip any doors outside of our access range and what sort of capabilities these automated units have. They're Galvatron units, heavily armored rolling tank bots. I'm very happy to see that we aren't going to have to mess with these today. Good call. Let's roll. We made our way up the stairs and past the tourist area of the building, virtual screens and mock-ups of classic aerospace designs sitting relatively untouched. As we reached an employees-only door, we badged in with our halos and entered the more utilitarian hallways. This was a place of work and science, and although it wasn't as cold as the Foundation facilities, it was still a research center. Suddenly, every door around us opened at the same time. A swarm of people poured out of the doors and mobbed us to the ground. I could feel them grabbing my Glock and my Reet and emptying my pockets. I'm sure they were doing the same to Bree's gear as well. They dragged us down the hallway and around the corner where they seemed to have a base of operations. Tables on end reinforced by desks for defenses, various melee weapons, and a few guns here and there. We were brought before a man, unassuming, office worker type, civilian clothes in disarray. He had a clipboard and seemed to be counting supplies. Before I could speak, my mouth was covered by a thick strip of black tape. Bree's was as well. What should we do with them, Glenn? Asked the guy holding my wrists. Judging by their uniforms, I bet they know spoilers. Toss them in the boardroom. Toss their stuff over there and I'll add it to the inventory roster. The guy with our gear walked into the hallway doors. The guy with our gear walked into one of the hallway doors while Bree and I were dragged back in the direction we came. They turned the opposite direction at the corner and brought us to a pair of large glass doors. We couldn't hear anything from inside, but we could see holograms standing around the board table having a discussion. They were hard to make out through the streams of daylight that fell through holes in the ceiling above them. Two of them moved forward to open the doors. Check their ears. Clear. They opened the doors and shoved us inside. We hit the ground and they shoved the door shut behind us. I twisted around and saw that all of them were leaning against the door to pin us in. I turned my head back to the table and saw what I can now see were scientists speaking in a very heated fashion. What are the capabilities of a creature made out of the fabric of reality itself? I'm sorry, Brian, what did you call these things? My face drained of color instantly. They're called I ripped the tape off of my mouth and put my hands over my ears and started yelling at Bree like a crazy person. Cover your ears and start yelling nonstop. You can't listen to those scientists or you'll find out whatever it is we're not supposed to know. Bree followed my lead and yelled back. What are we supposed to do to get out of here? I started to yell my response, but choked when I looked at the glass door again. From the light's reflection, I could see dozens of people's reflections all over the room. On the tables, under the tables, floating in midair, their faces contorted in pain, trapped as nothing. Bree saw what I was looking at, and I saw an idea flash over her face. She dropped her hands and started pulling at her wrists, discovering that they didn't confiscate her halo. Cover your damn ears! She kept working on her halo, and whether she was paying attention or not, all of that information is going in her ears. I had to try something. I started a long yell and turned around and grabbed a chair and flung it at the door. One of the guys flinched back, but the others held strong. I rammed against the door to no success. About the screamers from a distress signal from the Europa synchrotron. I covered my ears again. I eyed the hologram projector. There must be some way to shut it down. I started examining it and figured I'd found the console. I took a deep breath and let out another roar as I tried to pry the lid off it. I grabbed for a nearby pen to pry it open, and almost stabbed myself in the ear as I tried to cover my ears between breaths. I screamed again as I tried to pry open the lid, but I was starting to get lightheaded and I couldn't keep yelling at top volume. Values don't just max out and roll over to the bottom again in real life, Steve. That shit only happens in... I turned around, ears covered, and kicked feebly against the door, but perked up when I saw a 7-foot mountain of chrome shaped like a man, or vaguely man-like if you ignore the tank treads and 6 arms, roll around the corner. As the Galvatron unit turned to face the crowd, blaze blue sparks lit up the ends of its arms. As it started accelerating towards the group at the door, I turned to Bree, who shot me a cocky look. One of the guys in the back heard it coming and whirred his head around only to be met by a taser to the face. His body shook as he crumpled to the ground, and the whole crew turned around. The charging mess of swirling taser arms cut the crowd in half, causing the Galvatron to slam into the door. It righted itself and started whirring after one half of the goons while the other half fled, only to be confronted at the corner by a second unit. The path clear, Bree and I leapt through the freshly unblocked doors and slammed them shut behind us. I quickly turned to Bree. How much did you hear? Enough. The Earth is pretty fucked. I don't know how the Foundation has held the end at bay for this long. Around 95% of the population were wiped out at the end of the day. Stop. I'm not sharing what I heard. You're not sharing what you heard. The more you know, the more dead you are. Let's just finish the mission and forget about this for the... I trailed off and thought about my arm. 13th time. Huh. Lucky number, huh? I have a typo in my thing. It's not I trailer off, I trailed off. I need to remember to fix that. While I opine about getting my typing wrong, thank you, J Draw, for joining the subscribers of the channel. Huzzah! Don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. I'll keep reading. I patted my pockets. The amnestic slot was empty along with the others. We have to get our gear and finish the mission. We're not getting out of this alive without that amnestic. Bree nodded, and we turned toward the direction of the would-be executioners. A direction of our would-be executioners. We jogged down to the corner and I peeked around. A Galvatron unit and 2 hovering drones were inside the makeshift hallway village wreaking havoc, giving us clearance to creep up to the outer walls of their fortifications. I could hear fighting in the adjacent rooms of the hall. Bree and I breached, or really slid around their tables and desks and sat with our backs to the wall beside the first set of doors on either side. Peering into the room, I spotted our pile on the table in the center. I could see someone's feet lying on the ground on the other side of the table. Those autos are really efficient at tasing. I signaled over to Bree and ducked into the room. I just needed to grab the essentials, the guns, the reets, and the amnestics. Or I would have, had they all been there. Shit. Bree followed into the room. What? We're down 1 set of gear. Missing gun, missing reet, missing amnestic. Who would take amnestics? That stuff isn't even known to the public. I looked around at a table to see if maybe it had fallen, and locked eyes with the face of our knocked out friend. Black ink on his hands and face. Idiot. Found our missing bottle. We're down to 1. The finish and get back fast part of the plan. The finish and get back fast plan is 1 step more serious than it was before. Do you want the reet or the Glock? Shit. Okay, I'll take the reet. I heard more, so I'm more likely to see the pattern. I mean, them coming. I pocketed the amnestic canister and handed Bree the reet, and... No spoilers! We both turned our heads to see Glenn burst into the room, gun raised. He aimed at Bree and pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. He pulled the trigger repeatedly, his face changing from twisted rage to quizzical frustration as he stared at the reet he held in his hand. I took this opportunity to use my perfectly functional Glock to put 2 holes in him. He slumped against the door of the office. I sighed. Well, we know where the other reet got to. Bree. Good. No need to waste time looking. We have 1 amnestic, 1 reet. Bree ducked down and checked Glenn's belt. And 2 Glocks. Let's go. I poked my head out of the office and saw the rest of the hallway in quiet disarray. Bree and I bolted over tranked. That's a word that I wrote in my story that I wrote. God damn it, Sherman. Bree and I bolted over tranked and tased bodies and made our way to the final destination, the satellite control room. The room was like a warehouse of giant computer terminals. The first floor was a sea of different holodisplays, and the second one was a ring of catwalk with more terminals lining it. It was almost disorienting. Our halos led us left to the terminal we needed, and Bree got to work on uploading whatever the doc wanted us onto it. I paced nervously around the terminal floor. I thought I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, something that shimmered. I whipped my head and raised my Glock, and it was gone. I projected to the other side of the floor. How long we got? I'm getting nervous about some visitors. Almost done, I got in reply. I started making my way back towards Bree, mapping out our fastest way back on my halo. I lifted my eyes to see Bree, and something else grabbed my attention. I snapped my head up just in time to see a terminal tipping off of the second level directly above Bree. I chose dive. I knocked Bree out of the way and cleared the fall path of the terminal. Mostly. My brain sent every single at once to go along with the crunch of my left ankle. I heard gunshots going off from nearby, then Bree was by my side with her hands under the terminal. She bent her legs and the terminal started to budge upward. I crawled and rolled out, gasping for air. I didn't get him. I'm going up there. I don't think he's armed. Stay here. As Bree ran off to shoot the bastard, I activated my halo and scrolled to the suit menu. I activated my left boot's interior splint, and I felt the material of the boot form around my ankle and harden. It wasn't a fix, but it would make limping out of here easier. 2 more gunshots. I craned my neck up towards the second level and saw Bree holding her gun out in front of her. She lowered it, turned to me, and nodded. She turned to start heading towards the stairs when her arm was wrenched behind her by nothing. Her arm was just being held behind her in the open air. No! My scream echoed across the room. She reached for the reat on her belt, but her other wrist was wrenched outward. Brianna! I clambered to my 1.5 feet and started limp running toward the stairs. I lifted myself up the stairs using my hands on the rails more than my feet. Clearing the second floor, I used the railing to steady myself as I lurched toward the other side of the room. My eyes locked on her hands gone. My breathing started to get labored as I was 20 feet away. At 10 feet, I collapsed to my knees. My mind was shattering. I couldn't open my eyes. It wasn't just the ankle. I forced my eyes open and saw myself in my old house. A woman I didn't know was drinking coffee. I blinked and I was in a grocery store. Potato chip bags were strewn around the floor. My wife was hovering in front of my feet, dying. I can't see her face, but I know it's her. Wait, that wasn't right. That memory didn't make sense. I coughed and pulled myself up to my knees. I could see Brianna hanging there in the air, dissolving above the knee. I lunged forward and almost fell to the ground before grabbing her belt for support. With my other hand, I grabbed the reat from her belt, fell onto my back, and fired upwards. Brianna crumpled to the ground beside me. She was gasping for air. I was gasping for air. She looked me in the eyes and started breathing deeply, purposefully, and I did the same. We had to get it together. There's no telling how long the reek would hold the screamers back for. After a minute, we were able to start picking ourselves up off the ground. She looked at my ankle. Can you walk? I got up here, didn't I? Did you finish the upload? Yeah, it says the satellites will take about an hour to calibrate for whatever Dr. Stewart wants them to do. I was about to tell you that before you dive tackled me. I didn't think about yelling. Would you rather be my brace shoe right now? No, and thank you for saving my life twice in the span of 3 minutes. Anytime. Thank you for activating the robot army so we didn't die earlier. You're very welcome. She grabbed my arm over her shoulder and we started making our way out of the facility at a hobbling pace. Oh, sorry, I'm going to get a drink. Drink. Action scene over. The Black Pope asks, is this guy reading SCP stories from the wiki? Yes, I am in fact. This story is called Ignorance is Bliss. It's part of the Shattered Thoughts canon. No, not canon series. Shattered Thoughts series. And so this is Ignorance is Bliss. It is a tale. It's a tale I wrote, coincidentally, because this is the 3rd story in that sequence. And I only wrote one. It's the 3rd one. Okay. Action scene over. On to next. She grabbed my arm over her shoulder and we started making our way out of the facility at a hobbling pace. Past the unconscious survivors of the hallway village, past the tourist mock-ups, and into the lobby. Across the way, we could see the infinite cascade of debris on the front door. There was a Galvatron whirring around in the rain of rubble. We walked down the stairs across the JPL logo on the floor when we heard a sound above our heads. Without looking, we both dove forward just in time to avoid the falling mock space shuttle. We rolled over to see mostly blue sky. Several holes had opened up in the ceiling, and floating towards us was what had to be the screamers. It was like a trick of your eyes. There was clearly nothing there, but you could see every detail of the writhing mass of nothingness perfectly. Tendrils that I could both see and not see reached out toward us. Brianna yanked on my tack vest, and I snapped out of thinking and back into action. We scrambled to our feet and ran. We dove through the debris wall, and as I struggled to keep going on my ankle, I could see the screamers come through. The debris stopped infinitely cascading when they passed. What didn't disappear just fell to the ground. We ran across the parking lot, past the fountain, and into the grass of the business park. I tripped on some weeds and brought us both to the ground with a thud. I looked behind us and saw their wraith-like forms gaining on us. We couldn't outrun them. I couldn't outrun them. I pulled the amnestic canister out of my pocket and thrust it into Brianna's hand. Get out of here and amnesticize. No, I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. We've got one bottle of amnestic and two people who know enough about these things to see them. They're going to get both of us one way or another. Or they're going to get both of us or one of us. That's totally different. They're going to get both of us or one of us. I could see her checking off strategies in her head, trying to find the one that gets us both out of here. But she and I both came up with nothing. She grabbed me by the head and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around her for a sighing moment and then pushed her away. Go! Brianna took off running. I watched her for a moment, then I turned around and watched the oncoming screamers. They didn't scream, I thought. That's weird. I thought about the world. I thought about what the screamers did to almost all of humanity. I brought my Glock to my head. I thought about Brianna. I thought about my wife. I thought about... Brianna, whoa. Cough. One more drink. We're getting down to the finale. The Black Pope is not a new subscriber. He's been here a while and just hasn't been here for a live stream. Welcome to our Sunday live stream. We do this every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So 9 p.m. Eastern American Time, California 6 p.m. Wherever you are, 6 p.m. Pacific Time is what you should look up. But yes, we do this every Sunday. And so, final chapter. Brianna woke up to the taste of ink. There was a pain in her left arm. She looked through her blurred vision to see her left sleeve rolled up and a small amount of blood on the outside of her forearm. While her head throbbed, the spinning of the world started to slow down. She checked her wound. 2 bleeding gouge marks. 2 bleeding gouge marks. She was outdoors, nighttime, in the grass of a park on a business campus of some kind. Struggling to get to her feet, she noticed she was wearing tack gear, but it was an army issue. Her head ached and she couldn't seem to get a clear idea of how she got here. Had she been drugged? She focused on what she could remember. My name is Brianna Taxon. I'm 39 years old. I'm a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army Special Forces. The year as I know it is 2078. An alarm on our halo started ringing. It had been set to go off every 15 minutes starting an hour ago. It read, "The marks are to remember with love from Alan. Radio this frequency for pickup." Alan? Her head started to hurt. She took a deep breath to bury the oncoming headache and radioed in. "This is Staff Sergeant Brianna Taxon requesting a pickup." "We copy. What's your status?" "We copy. What's your status?" "I don't remember. I'm not injured." "Roger that. Are you alone?" "Yes." Woo! End story. End tale. We did it. We did it, fam. That was like 8,500 words of tale. Oh my God, it's taken an hour to read this. I hope you guys have enjoyed the ride. So let's talk about this. Let's discuss this for a little bit. Now, before we dive into the discussion, I'm going to drink more water. God. Aye. And so, if you guys have questions about this tale, I'm actually the one who wrote it, so I can answer those questions pretty handily. I'm also going to fix a typo that I have in my own story, like a dip. And so let's go to Ignorance is Bliss. Oh, let's log into the SCP Wiki because I have that power. Come on, logging in. Articles. Ignorance is Bliss. Plus 43. Hey, plus 43. That's good. That's a positive. And oh my God, where was Trail? What the? Do you guys remember where the typo was? I don't remember where the typo was. This is not good. Oh no, wasn't it later? Or was it part 1? Oh, I can search for the word trailed. Or trail. Let's fix. This is something that you do on the SCP Wiki, is you look for things that you done messed up.
Technology.
Except I am now using, okay, trail, not trow, trail. I trail her off. I'm not sharing what I heard, you're not sharing what you heard. Cool. And it found it for me in the document. So now I fixed it to trailed, save changes. Go, Sherman. Fixing your own article. Very good. So, back to the chat. There's always questions after reading an SCP. Typically, you are correct, Killasunder. And so, while if you guys have any questions about it, you can ask me that. It's pretty straightforward. And while I'm waiting for you guys to maybe have questions, because again, I don't think it's very hard to tell. I mean, there is some mystery to it because you don't know exactly what happened unless you're familiar with the story from outside. But what I will tell you is that if I go into my notes for this, so what had happened was a couple of years back, there was the canon contest on the wiki. The canon contest was that you and a couple other guys team up, a couple other authors team up, and you write enough stuff that you can make a canon on the site. And the idea is that they wanted to expand the lore of the wiki and get more canons. And so me, Yossi Modulum, and Blazing Trail got together, and we started this Shattered Thoughts canon idea, which is now a series, not a canon, but it's the Shattered Thoughts Broken Minds story. And the rest of the team are like super smart dudes. Like Yossi, Modulum, Blazing, they're like really smart guys. And the reason I say this is because like their stories were all these like high concept, sci-fi, Star Trek, everything's like $10 science words. And they're talking about like the meaning of the universe. And I'm just sitting here in the back, liberal arts major. I was going to say liberal arts major. No, liberal arts college dropout. And I'm just like, yeah, but what if I made a Terminator apocalypse story in that universe? And so that is where this came from, is I wanted the human element of this horrible thing that was happening. Because if you read SCP-3246, right, it's 3246. Scan. Yeah, no, 3426. If you read SCP-3426, there's all this like high-level planets are being deleted. They knew too much and they're being deleted, and reality is a simulation and the numbers don't add up and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's horrifying from this top-level view. But at first, I really wanted to have like this Terminator apocalypse story, like run and gun, get the thing, get to the place, do the thing, save the planet. And second thing I thought of as soon as I came up with this idea was, if the reason they kill you is because you know what's going on, what if you amnesticize yourself? And so I had this whole like memento thing of like the character wakes up, he doesn't remember what happens, goes through the thing. And what ended up happening is the idea evolved so that in the beginning, the idea was that he was going to keep coming back to life, party up with like a group of Foundation agents, and we'd have like 6 or 7 people go in after the site, and people would die, people would get caught, people would stuff like that. And it's the cold open of I woke up to the taste of ink that I just kept thinking about. And so as we kept doing that, the team filed down to one person. And because most of the time your run and gun protagonists like this turned out to be like too hero-y and are perfect and are good at everything, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of one of my favorite book series, the Dresden Files, in that Harry Dresden is good at things, but he's not the best at things. and he gets roughed up pretty bad all the time. And there are people who are better than him at what he is doing, and he gets messed up. So I wanted, when we went down from a whole team to just a 2-person team, which was more manageable for me to write in the time frame of the contest, I wanted Brianna to be the more useful character, because that would make an interesting contrast, and it would give my main character more time to quip. Because if you're writing in first person, you have to quip. It's a rule. We're all sarcastic in our brains, right? That's not just the voice in my head. One of the voices. Anyway. And so, writing something like this, I'll tell you this. If you haven't written for the wiki, writing is so much more fun than for the stories, for writing on a page, than it is for tabletop games. Before I wrote this article, I had mainly only done tabletop games like RPGs, like Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. I ran Fate system games specifically, if you're interested in that. And so when you're writing the game, you have to deal with the players, and you have to figure out all the different situations, and then you kind of don't know where they're going to go, because they are basically just as much writers as you are. And so sometimes they would do something that could have been foreshadowed before to make a very interesting story, but I didn't foreshadow it because I didn't know what the hell they were going to do. If you've been a dungeon master before, you feel me. And so what I got to do here is I would come up with an idea, and I would write it down, and then I get to go, ooh, this would be really good if I foreshadowed it here, here, and here. And so I get to go back, and I get to fix it, and I get a good story, rather than something that's haphazardly thrown together because people keep ruining my plans. In a fun way. People ruin your plans in a fun way. Finally, just something that no one has seemed to notice in this, because the discussion doesn't exist, so maybe they did read it. And by the way, if you like the article on the wiki, upvote it. If you like this stream, like the stream, comment, stuff like that. It helps the YouTube algorithm say that we're cool guys. But there's a lot of instances here where like life is a simulation. That's what we have. The universe is a simulation. And so there's a lot of glitches in the Matrix that you can see. Like, I mean, yeah, the pattern screamers are trying to stop us from breaking the system by stopping us from knowing it's a system in the first place. But then the hard light fence at the beginning, the fence that goes out and comes back as something else, that is a shift in reality. And I actually kind of hid the lead in that. I realized I buried the lead a bit, because when Alan checks his Hume frequencies, he checks his Hume count, it says it's normal. And that's because those changes in the Matrix are normal. They're not an aberration from reality like the anomalies he's used to are. This is reality itself reshaping. And then later on, all of his like glitchy memories going back, these aren't glitches now, these are amnestic memories. But you can't tell all those like wife and Brianna merging memories. Those are meant to be like murky as hell. And I like how those turned out, because I can't even tell myself now if I thought that they were like a couple or they weren't a couple, and they weren't. But yeah. And then finally, I don't think anyone noticed this except for one time in Crit, but Brianna's hair changes color. And that's not a typo. In the grocery store, she's a blonde. But when she comes out of the shower in the motor vehicle, she is a brunette. That is an effect of the pattern screamers trying to delete her. That is residue of reality trying to eat her, or unreality trying to eat her. And so from there, like obviously the cascading rocks are another glitch in the Matrix, but that one's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, glitchy Matrix writing. Lady Fairy J also fucking loves the Dresden Files. That's actually what I wrote my tabletop game about too. It was a Fate campaign in the Dresden Files universe. Fun stuff. Love those books. New book is coming out soon. Yay. Killisunder was thinking that this had a lot of parallel worlds meet Groundhog Day because of how everything restarts. Yeah, so every day he wakes up. Actually, the original story was that they keep running missions and they keep waking up and they don't know if they succeeded in their mission. They don't know if they failed, but there's always another mission. And so they always wake up. Okay, here we go again. And so theming it, especially writing the openings each way where I woke up to the taste of ink. There was a numb pain in the left arm. Looked through the swimming vision. Left sleeve rolled up. Small amount of blood outside of arm. I wanted it to be repetitive because they keep waking up in the same mental state. And they keep and so the repetition is still there in the writing. Whew. And the Black Pope points out that, yeah, your players will go left in their story. Your Dungeon Master story needs tracks here and there. And then sometimes if you're understanding of the memes these days, sometimes you need to figure out what happens to the mountain at the end of the campaign. Because you put a mountain in the past that isn't there now, and now you have to explain to your players what happened to the mountain, and that's all they care about. All right. Wow. That was exhausting. Luke, glad you were here. Thank you for joining us. Everyone in the YouTube chat, thank you for joining us. This has been a very long stream. We did a very good story tonight. We did good reading. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Closing off, thank you for coming. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube won't tell you that we're here. And if you become a patron, you'll help us grow the channel and make more live videos like we do on Thursdays now. Like the video. Like the article on the wiki if you remember. This has been Level 2 Researcher Theron Sherman. Thank you and good night.